Welcome to This Week in the Simulacrum, where we bring you weekly dispatches from Hyperreality. This is a special travel edition as I film this from a hotel room trying to make it work. This week, Kylie's Meta glasses turn surveillance capitalism into a fashion statement. I discovered the term LOL cow when Woah Vicky staged a downtown poetry reading, and Luca Guadagnino's OpenAI movie gets canceled by Amazon. First up, Kylie Jenner and Meta released a collaborative sunglasses line called Starfire. They are cat-eye frames that cost $399, and the charging case has a mirror inside so that you can check yourself before you put them on. The glasses, of course, have a camera on the outside, and you can replace the default system voice with one that sounds like Kylie.
Hey Meta, take a picture.
Yeah, I'm not buying it.
So Meta has officially ditched Ray-Ban, their original collaborator. And also Meta controls now, I think, 80% of the smart glasses on the market. What this can tell us is that Meta no longer needs a heritage brand like Ray-Bans to legitimize the product. It's now a brand in and of itself. That itself is a Kardashified sort of strategy. The Kardashians famously would do brand partnerships with more established companies and align themselves with the clout or heritage of another company, and then eventually come out on their own with their own product and famously come to own the means of their production. So Meta is a major corporation that has literally changed the world, but this venture into fashion, it seems like when any kind of even powerful figure makes the venture into fashion, it's like a careful moment or a big moment. Like Kanye was a huge music star when he started to venture into fashion, and that was a moment that he had to calculate, and he handled it by trying to crash down the gates, like going on different radio shows, venting about the struggles he was facing until people relented.
You know, I've been working on clothing seriously for the past 11 years. I interned at Fendi. I designed the Zanotti sneakers. People don't know that. I designed the Balmain sneakers.
Why don't you empower yourself and don't need them and do it yourself?
How, Sway?
Take a few steps back to go.
You ain't got the answers, man. You ain't got the answers.
Sway had the answer.
Mark Zuckerberg has been breadcrumbing this kind of thing. As we know, I've been talking a lot about how the tech billionaires are trying to create social media friendly persona formulas that they can use to globalize their influence in a soft power way beyond the very hard power of their technology's influence. So Mark Zuckerberg shouted out Kim Kardashian during the height of her Balenciaga virality back in 2022, trying to connect the centrality that her Kimye divorce was having to pop culture at that time and what it was doing for the Balenciaga brand to something he was doing with Meta, like the metaverse he was trying to make happen. And then more recently, he posted a picture of himself with his new like Chad look, wearing a hoodie that said Kim is my lawyer. So it's a thing that we've been talking about quite a lot lately. The tech billionaires are looking to figures like the Kardashians to understand how to craft their images and their personas visually to further promote their products, normalize their products, ingratiate them in pop culture and mass media.
Zuckersons? Zuckersons.
No, it is.
You haven't heard that?
No.
It's Zuck's Renaissance.
Huh.
You've got this new look, the chains, the shearling jacket. Everything you do seems to become a meme.
At least make them good memes.
Right, well,
Yeah.
it seems like you're leaning in on the joke more.
Then I think as I've gotten older, I'm just like, all right, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? It's like just kind of try to be myself as much as I feel comfortable.
The point is, with this collaboration, the tech gods and the Kardashians are formalizing that reciprocal relationship.
We partnered with Kylie to design these Kylie glasses. You have a bunch of touches that Kylie put into them herself. You know, she's such a fashion icon that it was just really fun getting a chance to work with her on this. She really wanted this gem to be embedded in the glasses. I think it's a really nice touch. They feel great. They look really good. And I think people are going to like those.
Good job, little buddy.
I also talk at length in my book about the history of American media is actually a story of audiences getting closer and closer to the objects of their consumption, of these tools becoming faster and becoming closer and closer to us until there's no escape from the surveillance and from the automation of our lives. So we started off outside of our homes, in cinemas, looking up at the big screen, and often idolizing these figures in old Hollywood. And then we moved to TV, where the TVs were in our living rooms, and people like JFK are developing parasocial relationships with us as they look through their screens, and it feels like they're looking at us, and they're a little bit more aspirational and relatable to us than the big stars from the old Hollywood years. And then we are reading tabloids that are now looking at famous for being famous socialites who are not formal celebrities or TV stars. They are people like us who just have money and cameras on them. And then we're looking at reality TV, which claims to show us people like us getting their chance at 15 minutes of fame. And now, more recently, the Kardashians led the charge in transitioning us from reality TV culture to social media culture, where we are in bed on our phones looking at influencers, people like us who figured out how to hack the algorithm and the attention economy, or one another on social media, trying to make it and consuming one another that way. So with glasses, that is bringing technology even closer to the self. And along the way, during this period where technology is getting closer to us and social media is democratizing or claiming to democratize this idea of notoriety and attention and social capital for everyone else, not just celebrities, the Kardashians are showing us the uses of these technologies by demonstrating and glamorizing, taking selfies, using filters, promoting your business on social media. So now to see Kylie bringing forth this next iteration of technology, which is a tool of surveillance that can literally go on the face and is a camera this close to the eye, is more invasive and yet the natural next step of where media was always going to go. Here's another way of thinking about how fitting it is that Kylie is promoting these surveillance glasses. There's a chapter in my book, it's the Barbie chapter, where I talk about the fact that we've arrived at a moment in media and technology where surveillance capitalism is the engine of the social media platforms we're all using. That the platforms can watch us and watch what we're watching. That's what the algorithms are doing when they're customizing themselves to us. We feel like we're really being seen, but we're being watched. And so the convenience of having videos that we didn't even have to go looking for, that we might like being delivered to us, is really shaping how we receive information and how we consume content. We can safely assume that the Kardashians are watching us watch them. They are seeing what we are engaging with to then optimize their content and deliver us more of it. And so that is why I wanted to create the Kardashian Data Coalition, which is made up of a bunch of volunteer data experts who saw that I was having a hard time finding a place to work with me to look at the Kardashians using data, and then reached out and we made a coalition that I quote quite regularly in my book. We can understand what the Kardashians are trying to sell us narratively and ideologically by looking at their content, and also we can learn about ourselves because what they're giving us is what they're seeing has worked for them. So it also can tell us something about what we're drawn to. So to me, that dynamic, let alone the irony of the fact that someone on their team tried to encourage me to organically promote this product by sending me some email saying, MJ, it looks like something's happening. There's billboards in LA. What could it be? At this point, I just have to live with the fact that they have been monitoring my content since 2022. Me, these glasses are a symbol of the merging of technology and visual storytelling to further engage all of us.
What else is coming?
Woah Vicky at the altar. So last Saturday night, Woah Vicky read poetry at a menswear store in the Lower East Side.
Michael Jackson would have slid in my DM. If you get a God-fearing man, you know he won't cheat on you. All the guys just want to smash. Some of them be gay. Woah Vicky White, what would you say?
And I didn't know who Woah Vicky was, which people found crazy. The people that know me and think that I know the internet thought it was crazy. I didn't know who she was. I guess she became famous in the late 2010s for kind of being like a Rachel Dolezal meets internet princess type of figure.
Thank you for understanding that I am a black girl.
I guess she has rebranded. Literally, this is just like what Google's AI told me, as an evangelical Christian, and she now describes herself as an evangelist. And so she did a poetry reading that a lot of the like downtown media scene arrived for.
There almost wasn't a Vicky to say whoa to.
The story grabbed me because of the images that came out on Fader. And there was a writer at Fader that called her, that basically said it was like a gathering of like cool people to flourish in like the mockery of a sort of LOL cow. I didn't know what an LOL cow was until I read the term, but I think it's an amazing term.
LOL cows have been a huge part of internet culture since the 2010s, with the term rising in popularity around 2014. According to the Wiki Dictionary, LOL means to laugh, and cows are something that is milked. So a LOL cow is somebody that can be milked for a laugh.
The photos that came out from the Fader event are really alienating. It's a room full of people basically smirking at what they're watching. And it didn't look cute. So then a lot of those people were in the comments being like, no, we're really genuinely big fans. We actually really like her. What are you talking about? We weren't being ironic about it. I've been observing this now since like 2009 when I went to liberal arts school in the 2010s. And irony was like the way you virtue signaled in terms of being cool, not morally. I guess clout wasn't even a thing back then because it was different social media. There's a thing with being ironic where you have to pretend that you are embracing the thing sincerely. Otherwise, it's not cool to own that you were just being ironic because that's trying too hard to be cool. But what's gross about it is that it's usually a lot of like educated people going to the poetry reading of someone that's coded as trashy. And the irony is the contrast of knowing what traditional poetry is, having been literally trained in it or educated or at least exposed to it, moving through circles where knowing literature or whatever the form is that is being subverted is a status indicator because it's about having had access to spaces with a certain kind of capital. And so then when you go to a space where that is somehow being like degraded or recontextualized by something that is transgressive of that class, it's feels subversive. So I know I'm not supposed to like Woah Vicky. That is what I learned when I was posting about this in my close friend's story. A bunch of people DM me being like, no, she's bad. I haven't even gone and done the deep dive enough to know. Like, I'm sure you guys can tell me in the comments how I'm supposed to feel about her.
Of trouble because of saying the N-word, correct?
Yeah.
Did you feel like you've taken accountability for it, or do you feel like...
Oh, yeah. So when I was in high school, all I had was black friends. And I used to say the word around them all the time, and they didn't mind, they didn't care. When I had started going viral, it was like my ex, his family, they were like geniuses, right? They told me like, say the word in one of the videos, it'll go viral. So I think I'd say that in one of the videos, and then everybody was like, you know, getting mad at me, oh, she's racist, she's racist. And they told me, say, just tell them you're black, tell them you're mixed.
Okay.
So then I did that. And then, you know, I was only 17, I was a kid, and I'm like, that like whatever goes viral.
So now you don't, obviously.
Yeah, no, I took that word out of my vocabulary after I seen how the whole world affects the whole world.
But what I know is that the people that went to that reading didn't go to make fun of her out of any kind of moral position against whatever she stands for. They went to see and be seen. And on one hand, I do think there's something really cool about collapsing the highbrow and as I don't like the term lowbrow, the everyday. I think that more people should have access to the ideas and information that has been contained by traditionally highbrow spaces. But there's something about a room full of people packed wall to wall selling out an event to see someone who is not supposed to read poetry that I think is lame. And the only answer is when you are the LOL cow, you have to be in on the joke and you can capitalize on that. I would be smarter if I had leaned into the fact that people like to make fun of the work I do and allowed myself to become an LOL cow. If I had made more of a spectacle of the Kardashian thing or the fact that people think I look like them because I share their ethnic background, that would have been smart. But I'm not an extrovert and I'm not actually media savvy in that way. So I have just come at all this from a place of sincerity and accepted that there's like an inherent audience loss to that. I've always known that it would also benefit my work as a New York writer to figure out how to belong to the spaces of people that are sitting in that room watching the spectacle. And by the way, I understand that there could be some gems in that poetry.
A lustful man is never satisfied. Not because you're not enough, but because his emptiness is endless. And
I guess the idea would be that Woah Vicky understands that she's creating a spectacle and the audience understands that they're present to witness a spectacle, and maybe there was a real continuity and symbiosis between the performer and the crowd. I guess at one point Vicky got them all to like bow their heads in prayer, and they actually did. So there's something interesting about that. Like, they had to commit to the bit of the sincerity of being there in the audience for the sake of the irony that they did something that's like considered sacred and participated in that ritual. Because no one's here to tell me that they really like had some kind of spiritual revelation from praying with Woah Vicky. I guess Caroline Calloway was there. She's a great example. She was someone that was really smart about turning the LOL cow thing into a real career. When she was coming up, I was in circles, I was in rooms where people were talking shit about her, and I never understood it. I never understood, first of all, who she was or what the issue was. Like, why people were being so mean to this random girl.
List of things I've been called. I mean, you forgot so many. You forgot narcissist. You forgot toxic friend. You forgot criminal. You forgot slut. You forgot, gosh, so many names.
And it just seemed to me like I remember some memer in LA that my ex followed, who I always thought was funny, like did some good memes, made a whole story post, like a long deep dive about when Caroline Calloway, I guess, like painted her floors in New York, her New York City rental apartment white. And she was like, it just makes me sad to see like an apartment sullied or something like that. And I'm like, why the fuck do you care? Don't you like talk about hating landlords? This is a rental. The pearl clutching, have we learned nothing from the Kardashians? That the pearl clutching ascribes power to a person that if they're smart, they learn how to elevate from.
Kardashian West, and it's so great to be here tonight. I know, I'm surprised to see me here too. When they asked, I was like, you want me to host? Why? I haven't had a movie premiere in a really long time.
I mean, but it's a very millennial thing, actually. I'm going to run around Vegas or Disney, but ironically, because I have the educated distance to enjoy it this way. I can indict myself in this. I love Vegas and Disney and experiences that are constructed with the idea of mass appeal, and yet there's an idea that there's a different taste sensibility to my appreciation for it because there's a distance, because I'm like a resident of a coastal elite city like New York, so then like going to the Midwest or going somewhere that's meant for everybody is somehow like a little different. That's a thing. And I grapple with this a lot because sometimes those lenses can be through-based to genuinely enjoying things. But I'm just suspicious of any space where there's some kind of setup for a group of people to get to feel superior. And again, I bet there's people who went to that event who are also the kind of people that enjoy my work, because my work is about collapsing the highbrow in the everyday, and that's like a vibe.
Can't all be reading the classics, Professor Highbrow.
And if it's about genuine enjoyment of theory and looking at the world in like a more deconstructive way, through an accessible frame like the Kardashians, which I think they are what the theory was made for, so I don't think it's that novel, actually. So, long story short, it would be smart for me professionally to make my way to these kinds of events, but I don't think you'll ever catch me at something like that, certainly not making a face like some of those people in there. And finally, Luca Guadagnino made a movie called Artificial, starring Andrew Garfield as Sam Altman. It's basically The Social Network, but for the OpenAI coup, in which Altman was fired, chaos ensued, and then Altman was reinstated after a few days. The film was nearly finished, and then Amazon MGM Studios, which had been the film's committed distributors from the beginning, suddenly dropped it. But here's the thing. Several months before they dropped it, Amazon announced a $50 billion investment in OpenAI. And now the movie's homeless. Netflix passed, Focus Features passed, A24 screened it, Mubi is maybe circling. So it's really interesting because this movie is about what happens when a board tries to hold a powerful man accountable. But this movie was killed because capital had an interest in that powerful man. Just very ironic, and I'm curious where the movie is going to land. We should be more and more aware of the ways that these technology companies, with the interest that their founders and their leaders are showing in personifying themselves, mediating themselves, mediatizing themselves. It's going to be interesting to pay attention to the cultural outputs from those companies and what gets filtered out and what gets platformed. That's your hyper reality for this week. Surveillance posing as fashion, irony posturing as sincerity, and for once, corporate interest not posturing as pro art. Thanks for watching. I'm MJ Corey. See you next week or maybe the week after. Also this week, I have a video essay out comparing Kim Kardashian to Gloria Allred. Check it out on YouTube.
Thanks for hosting us. I mean, this is quite a group to get together, and